Hey there guys, Aaron Brink with Brink's Bees here. And today we're going to be making swarm traps out of 1/2-inch plywood. We use the Tom Seeley research for this, so we're going to be making around a 40-liter box out of 1/2-inch plywood. We're going to get 3 swarm traps out of 1 sheet of plywood. I'm going to show you how to do that. So anyway, we're going to go in, we're going to get a 1/2 sheet of sanded plywood on each side. I think they're right around 36 bucks. And then I'm going to show you how to get that thing cut. All right. All right guys, so what you're gonna do at Home Depot, once you get your plywood, you're gonna have them make 4 cuts like that at 15 inches widthwise. Don't cut it lengthwise, cut it widthwise. You're gonna make 4 cuts at 15 inches, and then you're gonna make 3 cuts at 12 inches wide, going widthwise as well. And those are gonna be your starter cuts. You'll still need a table saw at home, but this will save you a lot of headache using a table saw trying to cut down this plywood. One thing I do want to stress, guys, is your last 12-foot or 12-inch board will not actually be 12 inches. It'll be slightly under, because as you're making your cuts on the board, you're losing a little bit of blade width, but you don't need that last board to actually be 12 inches. You need it to be at least 10 inches, okay? All right, guys, we're back at the house. We've got all our boards cut from Home Depot. What we're going to do is we're going to take one of our 15-inch boards, okay, and we're going to cut it to 19 1/4, okay? So 15-inch board, 19 1/4, you're actually going to cut twice. So cut one board at 19 1/4 and then cut another board at 19 1/4, and you're going to need that scrap on the end, all right? All right, guys, so I have cut down 2 of my 15-inch boards that I had, and we made 4 cuts at 19 1/4 inches, and it's 15 inches high. And we got these 2 scrap pieces. These 2 scrap pieces are actually going to be our ends. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut these scrap pieces down to 9 inches wide real quick. All right, guys, now that you've cut those 2 scrap pieces down to 9 inches wide, you're going to cut them down to 14 1/4 high. All right, guys, so we're just going to assemble the box outline here. So you've got 2 pieces that are 15 inches tall by 19 1/4 inches long, and 2 pieces that are 9 inches wide by 14 1/4 inch tall. And all you're going to do is when you start assembling your box, you're going to notice that there's probably some like knots. If you just got the regular CDX cheaper plywood, there'll be like a smoother sanded side, maybe not perfect, but it's going to be smoother than one side. Any of those knots or big imperfections like that, we want those on the inside of the box where they're not exposed so much to the outside rain, okay? Because you're going to leave this thing hanging in the tree for a while. So what I recommend doing to assemble is put your lengthwise board up against maybe your cut gate, if it'll hold up like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your side pieces, you're going to glue the entire length of it. Always glue these. You never want to skip the glue, because this really helps them hold up a lot longer. And then all you're going to do is you're going to butt that together with your side piece, and then I highly recommend a 1-inch brad nail to start to hold these together. And I always start with like the top and the bottom to get them to be together. To start, I want to make sure everything's butted together nice and neat. Really make sure that brad nail gets in there. Hold it nice and tight. Press hard so that that glue really adheres. And then we're just going to keep adding brad nails. Okay, we've got some brad nails in there. We're going to bring it out, and we're really going to add quite a few. I'd say maybe at least 10 along the length, okay? Now, that's one side. What this actually becomes, and you're going to look at it, what you want to do is have it nailed to the inside. That becomes your frame rest, okay? So that's what we want. Now we're going to go ahead and do our other one, okay? Scoot this out a little bit. like I said, this becomes your frame rest. So remember, smoothest side to the outside. See, got a little knot right there. Smoothest side to the outside. We're going to add some glue here. Put it to the inside. Butt everything up, nice and neat. Get it tight and level. We want everything to be nice and level as well. Get it all together, and let's add some brad nails. And you really want to make sure you're getting pretty accurate with these because it is just a half-inch piece of plywood. You really want to make sure that you're actually getting it in. Once we add those, now we're going to finish the box. Like I said, this is just your box outline, okay? So once we've got all that together, we can now add the other side of the box. Pretty simple. And what I would tell you to do is go ahead, add your glue on each side. Remember, we want to glue these. Smoothest side to the outside. We're going to butt everything up nice and neat. Lay that down. We'll start with one side and then we'll go from there. So make sure it's butted up nice and neat. It's even on the bottom. We'll add some brad nails to hold it. Pop that a little bit. Just get that off there. We'll paint that. These things don't absolutely have to be perfect, guys. They're just swarm traps. They aren't hives. You're only using them temporarily to hang in trees throughout the season to catch some swarms. So we'll butt it all up. Like I said, doesn't have to be perfect. Get that bottom started and held together. We'll butt up the top. Squeeze it down nice and tight. Alright, so that's our box outline. So now we have our frame rests, and this is what it's going to look like. So here's your frame rest, and you'll add a cleat to that later on. So that's our box outline. So I'm going to show you how that works. So we've got all that together, and our frames go in, and perfect, right? Holds it perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and cut our bottoms and our cleats and our lids, and then all we got to do is drill a hole, put an entrance disc on there, paint the crap out of this thing, and we're done. Alright guys, we're now going to cut the bottom and our cleats. So we have one of our 12-inch boards here that we cut, and we're going to cut it down to 10 inches. And that 2-inch piece that's left, we're going to use that for our cleats. So we're going to cut this down real quick. Alright guys, so we cut down our 12-inch board to a 10-inch board. We'll have this 2 inches left over. And while you still have your cut gauge at 10 inches for the bottom, that's the same width as your box, so you need to cut a cleat. So you're going to cut 2 cleats for your box, okay? 2 10-inch cleats out of the 2-inch strip. Alright guys, so we're going to add our cleats now. So we cut down those 2-inch strips to the same width of the box. And what you're going to do is you take that and you're going to put glue all along the back end of it, okay? Keep it away from about 1/2 inch up, so about the bottom half, that's where you add glue. And then what it does, if you can see the box here, you nail this cleat to the top edge, and that closes off the box so that there's a flat lid, and that makes your frame rest right there, okay? So we'll add some glue along the 2 side edges. So you want to be able to glue onto those 2 side edges, so we add glue here along the side edge and down the bottom and then up the other side edge, okay? So it'll look like that. That's how you add glue. And then I'm going to flip this up and I'm going to lay this down. And remember, we want it perfectly across the top. Get it nice and tight. And now we're going to add some brad nails. Like I said, these are just swarm traps. They will work perfectly fine. And then add some nails down across the bottom. So, now we've added one of our cleats right there. So you can grab onto the box. It also closes up the box. Okay, and then we'll add the other one on the other side. And then all we have to do is add the bottom and make our lid, and we're done. That's a swarm trap. Drill a hole in it, put an entrance disc on it, and paint it really well. All right, guys, now we're gonna cut our bottom board, or the bottom of it. So we're gonna cut down our 10-inch board down to a 19 1/4, and that's gonna be our bottom. So the board that you cut from 12 inches to 10 inches, you're gonna cut it in a length of 19 1/4. All right, guys, so we cut our 10-inch board 10 inches wide, and we cut it down to 19 1/4, and we're gonna put that as our lid. Remember to make sure you glue it and brad nail it really well. All right, guys, we're gonna cut our lid now. So we're gonna take that same 10-inch piece that we cut, and we're gonna cut a piece that's 21 inches long. So 10 inches wide, 21 inches long. All right, guys, we had some scrap wood after we finished cutting our lid, and this is 10 inches wide. It's the leftover. You're gonna cut 2 cleats that are 2 inches wide, all right? 2 cleats that are 10 inches long and 2 inches wide, and that's gonna be the cleats for your lid. All right, guys, we're gonna put the cleats on our lid, and we're gonna be done with this project, and I'll tell you how to set up your swarm trap. So you've got 2 cleats that are 2 inches wide and 10 inches long, and then you're just gonna attach it to the bottom of that lid like this, okay? So all we wanna do is run some glue across the top of that. And we'll set that on top of our cleat. Okay, get everything lined up nice and neat. And then we're just gonna add some brad nails to hold it together, right there. And then we'll add 5 or 6 across the top. Do it on the other side, and that is our cleat for the top. And it's not the greatest, most fantastic lid, but we're making this thing out of plywood, guys, and this thing might last you maybe 3 seasons, 4 seasons, but this thing's literally 12 bucks. Super easy. So we'll add another cleat on this side. And the nice thing about this, guys, that I really stress to everybody, and this is really less than 12 bucks. The entire piece of plywood cost me $16. So you're talking a swarm trap that might really have cost, you know, less than 8 bucks to build. So my thing about these swarm traps is if someone steals it, I'm not worried about it. Okay? So bring it up, and this is your swarm trap. So what I want you to notice is how the lid fits down. Now it's going to fit kind of tight, and what I tell everybody, you can actually go like 21 inches and maybe an 1/8 if you want a little bit of wiggle room in your lid. But notice how tight it fits right there. So when you go to set up your swarm trap, guys, what you're going to do is it'll hold 6 frames. So what I tell everyone is when you load your frames, I try to get 2 old, dark, just dry combs. They don't have any nectar, they don't have any pollen, they don't have anything that wax moths would attack. And what I would tell you to do is go get some BT or some Zentari. You can order Zentari powder from me. What it is, it's a biological insecticide for wax moths. You mix it in a gallon sprayer, you spray it on your stored combs, and wax moths won't touch your combs, okay? So what I tell everybody is take 2 drawn combs, you stick them in the middle, and then you take all foundation, and you fill up the rest of the box. So these would just, I know there's no foundation in these cones, but you fill up the rest of the box with frames. Now, here's the deal. There's space underneath those frames. The reason there is space underneath those frames is to set so that that swarm can cluster. So what you're doing is you're putting 2 fully drawn old brood combs right here, and then foundation on these 2 and foundation on these 2. Okay, and all you'll need to do to set this thing up, paint it really well, and then drill an entrance hole wherever you really feel like, but I highly recommend it be on like the bottom third of the box. Okay, and what we do is we add entrance discs once we drill that hole. So I make a ton of these things every year. So like I drill a hole right there, and there's my entrance disc. So once you figure out that you've caught a swarm, all you have to do is turn that entrance disc to the closed position, and now your swarm's caught in there. What I really do with mine is when I go and set them up and my lid is on, what I do is I go ahead and screw that lid down. So what I do is I drill a small pilot hole right here in the cleat, and I actually use a screw, a small 1-inch screw, and screw the lid down. That way nothing can get in, okay? And I just leave the entrance disc open, and that's all you do, guys. Bait that thing with some Swarm Commander or some Swarm Lure, and you'll have some swarms. So I hope I helped you guys catch some free bees this year. As always, please hit subscribe if you like our videos. Aaron Brink with Brink's Bees, guys. Have a great day. Hey there, guys. One last thing I wanted to stress about these swarm traps is the easiest way to attach them to a tree is to use a ratchet strap or 2. And then you definitely want to bait these with a Swarm Commander or lemongrass oil or different attractants that are on the market. I highly recommend Swarm Commander as well. From there, like I said, the easiest way to attach it to a tree is a couple ratchet straps or 1 or 2. And then I get questions of why there's so much space underneath those frames. And this is all Tom Seeley's work on bait hives and how large of an actual hive you want as a swarm trap. And this is around a 40-liter hive. It's just vertical instead of horizontal, like using a regular 10-frame deep box. And the reason there's all that space underneath the frames is you want a bunch of space for these larger swarms to be able to cluster. So what will actually happen is when the bees go in and occupy the swarm trap, the queen will move up to those frames and that foundation, and they'll start working that foundation and frames, and she'll start laying brood in those. And then the rest of the bees will actually cluster on the bottom side of those frames. I highly recommend that you go and check those about every 7 to 10 days so that the bees don't start building down below the frames. So just get them up vertical in a tree, nice and straight. You don't want them, cockeyed in a tree. You want them nice and vertical. From there, bait them, ratchet strapping them really good to the tree so they don't blow away with the wind, and just check on them every 7 to 10 days. And the one last thing too, guys, you should be able to make 3 of those boxes from the measurements and cuts that I gave you with that 1 piece of plywood. So make sure you have made 4 cuts out of the plywood at 15 inches, and then 3 cuts at 12 inches, and just utilize the wood you've got. So have a good one.